A warm welcome. Nice to be in sunny LA. Makes a difference from cloudy London. So those of you here for the first time, a very warm welcome to you. This afternoon we'll have a little bit of a discussion on some of the ancient wisdom that is found in these beautiful Sanskrit literatures. And before we do that, we just sing this very beautiful song which is all about Krishna and his eternal pastimes of love in the transcendent realm. So please join us. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai, Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So today we will just read one verse from the ancient Srimad Bhagavatam. It is said actually by one of our teachers that if you want to understand the essence of everything that is contained within the Vedas, which are the ancient literatures which describe reality in the most detailed way, if you want to know the essence, then you go to Srimad Bhagavatam. Sarve Vedanta Saram hi Srimad Bhagavatam Ishyate Tadra Samrita Triptasya Nanyatra Shadrati Kvachit. If you want to know the sar, the essence of the Sarva Vedanta, all the Vedic scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam Ishyate, then you read Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'm just going to read one verse. I'll just read the verse myself and the translation. And in the interest of time, we'll just go into a discussion and try to see what this relevance may be for our life. It's a very famous verse, so I think you can repeat after me line by line. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. So this verse is recited right at the beginning of the Bhagavatam, and it has a very interesting insight which I'll try to share a little bit with you today. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. I'll just read a couple of the very powerful sentences from Srila Prabhupada's purport. All the Vedic literatures and Puranas are meant for conquering the darkest region of material existence. The living being is in the state of forgetfulness of his relationship with God, and due to his being overly attracted to material sense gratification from time immemorial. His struggle for existence in the material world is perpetual, and it is not possible for him to get out of it by making plans. If he at all wants to conquer this perpetual struggle for existence, he must re-establish his eternal relation with God. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki. In this verse, the words Tato Jaya Mudirayet are very significant. If you ever come to a Hare Krishna temple, then you will hear the words Jai again and again, isn't it? Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON LA ki, all of you ki. Thank you. The word Jai is a very famous word. It means victory. But it also means the victory of conquest. You see, everyone in this world is on a mission. But everyone in this world has a different mission. Everyone in this world is on a conquest, but everyone in this world is trying to conquer something different. When Srila Prabhupada wanted to print his books, he went to Japanese printers, Dai Nippon, and he met one of the bosses. And as he was sitting on the desk opposite this boss of the Dai Nippon press, he asked the boss, "What is your goal in life?" And without saying a word, what this man did is he picked off his table a stack of business cards. And from the bottom, he took out his business card and he slided it out and then he slammed it on the top. You could understand, yes, he wants to be the top dog. Of course, even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. So yes, some people are just trying to conquer the world, trying to get on top, trying to rise, trying to climb higher. There's a story that once a group of friends went to New York and they checked into the penthouse room of the Hilton on the 80th floor, and then they had a great night out. But when they came back, they had the shock of their life, because when they came into the foyer and they walked up to the lift, there was a sign, "Out of order." Now, if you're living in the 80th floor of the penthouse suite, but the lift is out of order, that's a problem. But they thought, let's bite the bullet, let's walk up. So they began walking. After some time, they were getting bored, so they told each other, let's tell each other stories. So they were all telling each other stories, and somehow or other, time was flying. And they got to the 70th floor, and they looked at one of their friends, and they said, you're very quiet, you haven't told any stories, why don't you tell a story? He said, my story is tragic. They said, no, we also like those stories. He said, my story is that the lift is out of order. We began walking up the stairs. We're on the 70th floor, but we forgot the key at the reception. Yes, because some people are climbing very, very high, but maybe they forgot the key to happiness on the ground floor. Yes, we're on a conquest, we're on a mission to rise economically, to rise socially, to rise in our material identity. Yes, you can rise and rise and rise, but maybe once you're up there in the heights of success and you've conquered everything you wanted to conquer, maybe, just maybe, you'll realize, I think I forgot the key on the ground floor. The Bhagavatam is very, very beautiful because number one, it tells you what is worthy of being conquered. And number two, it tells you what is the very means of conquest, how you will be able to conquer those things that you should conquer in this life. The first thing that the devotee, the spiritualist, is trying to conquer in the world is the ignorance that surrounds us. We are living, believe it or not, in a very, very dark age. Don't be fooled by the sunny skies of LA. There's a lot of light out there, but this world is dark because Kaler Dosha Nidhe Rajan is darkened by ignorance, and therefore people are not aware of the real goal, the real meaning of why we're here. And therefore the spiritualists are traveling, they're moving, and they're meeting people, meeting people's hearts, and trying to enlighten them with that wisdom. Srila Prabhupada was such a saint. Once Srila Prabhupada came to America, and in a press conference, an Indian reporter stood up and said, Swamiji, why have you come here? As if it was his country. So Srila Prabhupada looked right back at this Indian reporter and said, why have you come here? He looked at Prabhupada and he said, better opportunities. Prabhupada said, me too. And Prabhupada looked at him and said, but you came for better opportunities to earn. I came for better opportunities to give, to serve, to guide, to give people spiritual knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada was traveling. You see, the Vaishnava is moved by a heart of compassion. Some people are just apathetic. They see the suffering of the world, they see the ignorance, and it doesn't even register. Some people are sympathetic. They see the suffering, but they're happy to see it from a distance. At least it's not me. But the spiritualist goes beyond apathy and sympathy and has complete empathy. They have to do something. They have to act. They have to speak. They have to help. And therefore Srila Prabhupada was moving. He was on a mission. He was on a conquest to remove ignorance in the world. Yes, the world is not in a good situation. The latest studies show divorce rate has doubled. Depression rate has tripled. Prison population has quadrupled. And crime is higher than ever. Einstein said you can't solve the problems of the world with the same type of thinking that created them in the first place. And therefore the spiritualist is on a mission, a conquest, to bring about enlightenment in the world. And here, Tato Jaya Mudirayet, the Bhagavatam is the very means of conquest. And therefore, if we want to remove ignorance from the world, the light will come from the Bhagavatam. Krishna Swadhamopagate Dharma Jnana Dibisaha Kalo Nasta Drisham Esha Purarnarko Dhuno Ditaha. It's explained that the day that Krishna left this world was the day that Kali Yuga began. And on that day, the world became enveloped by darkness. But the good news is that Krishna left the Bhagavatam behind. Purar Narko Dhuno Dhita. And from that Bhagavatam, all the light emanates to remove the ignorance of the world. And so in our mission, with a kind heart to try and remove ignorance from the world, the Bhagavatam is the means. One person came to Srila Prabhupada before he left for America and he said, "Oh, Swamiji, I heard you're going to America." Prabhupada said, no, the Bhagavatam is going to America. I'm just holding it. Yes, the Bhagavatam is going because Tadvag Vishargo Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Prati Shlokam Abhaddhavatyapi. The Bhagavatam is going to create a revolution in the world. So the first mission, the first conquest of the spiritualist is to remove the ignorance from the world. And that can only be done through the Bhagavatam. But then the spiritualist realizes maybe some of that ignorance is within myself. Maybe I'm not just a doctor helping the world, but maybe I'm a patient with some of that ignorance within my own consciousness, meaning that I need to also work on myself. And therefore the second mission, the second conquest of the spiritualist is not just to remove the ignorance out there, but to remove the ignorance within, to conquer the mind and senses. See, the mind and senses are so strong that they're continually pulling us away from our deepest aspirations. We tell people, don't give up what you want most for what feels good now. But most people are not able to do that because we don't have any control over our mind and senses. Constantly agitated. And if you don't believe me, you can go in front of the mirror, open your mouth and just watch your tongue and see if it can stay still. Don't do it now, but yes, the senses, lobha moy sudurmati, very, very difficult to control. Therefore, a spiritualist is known as Goswami. They've been able to control their senses. The greatest achievement in life is actually the ability to control one's own mind and senses. That is real wealth. That is real accomplishment. Once a king was walking through the forest and he came into the hermitage of a sage. And he looked at the sage and he said, "Who are you?" And the sage looked back at the king and said, "I'm a king." The king said, "What do you mean you're a king? I'm a king, you're not a king." He said, No, I'm a king." The king looked at him and said, "If you're a king, where is your kingdom?" And the sage looked back at him and said, "Ihayasya harer dasye karmana manasagira nikala shvipyavastasu jivan mukta sa uchyate." Because I've completely absorbed myself in spiritual activity, I'm not actually living within the space of this material world. So my kingdom is actually in a transcendent realm beyond what you can see. It was like, wow, okay. He said, "If you're a king, where are your armies?" The sage looked back at him and said, "Titikshava karunika surida sarvadehinam ajata shatrava shanta sadhava sadhubhushana." The sage looked back at him and he said, I don't need any armies because I don't have any enemies. Ajata, Shatru. I don't have any enemies, so I don't need any armies. He goes, wow. He said, if you're a king, where's your treasury? Where's all your wealth? The sage looked at him. Yam labdva chaparam labham manyate nadikam tata yasmin stito na dukhena gurunapi vichalyate. He said, I've grasped the wealth of spirituality, and therefore I've become fully satisfied within. He looked at the king and said, the richest person is not the one who has the most. The richest person is the one who needs the least. The king was like, okay, this guy's good. And then the sage looked back at him and said, you're a king. And now I want to ask you, if you have a kingdom, if you have armies, if you have wealth, then where are they? I don't see them. The king said, no, I'm just passing through the forest. And the sage looked at him and said, me too, I'm just passing through the world. And then the king realized that every single one of his achievements in life was actually an indication of what he was lacking within. Every single achievement that he took pride in, I have a great kingdom, because he had no sacred space to live in. I have wealth, because he had no inner satisfaction. I have an army, because he had created so many enemies. He realized that every single achievement that he took pride in was indicative of a vacuum within his own heart. And therefore he realized, my God, this guy's rich. Therefore, the devotee is trying to conquer the mind and senses by engaging them in the spiritual realm. And in that way, naturally, one is becoming completely self-controlled. One's mind is becoming enlivened by something higher. Evam prashana manaso bhagavat bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. The Bhagavatam says that one whose mind has become enlivened by spiritual contact, mukta sangasya jayate, they live in this world untainted, uninfluenced, unagitated. And so this is the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam helps us to understand how to conquer the mind and senses, how to purify the heart. And therefore in our second conquest, to conquer over our own mind and senses, the Bhagavatam is the key. But then later on we realize, even if we've managed to control our mind and senses, what's even harder to control is our own pride, our own ego. Which person can conquer their pride, conquer their ego, conquer that sense that I'm better than those around me? We are constantly having such a proud vision of ourselves, thinking we are the center of attention. They say in the first 20 years of your life, you're very concerned what people think about you. In the second 20 years of your life, you don't care what people think about you anymore. And then in the last 20 years of your life, you realize nobody was thinking about you anyway. But we have this overinflated conception of ourselves that we are important, we are great, everyone is looking at me. But the devotee, the spiritualist knows I need to conquer over my pride. Because if you're proud, you can't last. If you're proud, you can't learn. If you're proud, you can't love. And so, the Bhagavatam helps us to become humbled, to become more realistic about who we are. Sometimes even if we become accomplished in spiritual practice, we learn how to control our mind and senses, but still our ego, our pride is soaring. They say you're fasting from food, but you're feasting on the ego. Yes, I am very good, I am very established, I am very... So the Bhagavatam helps us to realize by narrating the great lives of the devotees that actually, who am I? They are so accomplished, they are so amazing. In comparison, I am very small. One time the devotees were having a conversation and Srila Prabhupada was there, and then someone said, "Oh no, that devotee, he's a big devotee." So Prabhupada overheard. Prabhupada said, "Big devotee?" Prabhupada said, "Narad Muni is big devotee." Narad Muni is big devotee. So when you hear the narrations of the Bhagavatam and the incredible personalities there, then it's also very, very humbling, but in a joyful way. Because one realizes, I am very small, I am very insignificant, but I'm part of an amazing family. Because the Bhagavatam opens up to the family of Krishna's devotees, the family of Krishna's lovers. And in comparison, we realize the devotee thinks, Premera svabhavayaha premera sambandh se mane Krishna mora nahi prema gandh. One who has developed some love, prema, he sees those who have prema, and then he thinks, nahi prema gandh, I don't actually have any love for Krishna. But he's very, very happy that he's in the family of the lovers of Krishna. So in our mission to conquer our own pride and ego, the Bhagavatam is helping us. The Bhagavatam is tato jayamudiraye, the very means of conquest. But even once we've conquered all of these things, we've conquered the ignorance of the world, we've conquered the mind and senses, we've conquered the ego, there's one last thing that the devotee of Krishna is trying to conquer. What is that? What do you think? The very last thing, the ultimate thing that the devotee is trying to conquer. Krishna. Ultimately, we have to try to conquer Krishna. Conquer Krishna? Krishna is God. How you conquer Krishna? But the amazing thing is, Krishna wants to be conquered. Conquered by love. Kleshagni shubhada moksha laguta krit sudurlabha Sandrananda Visheshatma Shri Krishna Karshini Chasa. It's very explained beautifully by Rupa Goswami. He says devotion to Krishna has many characteristics, but one of the most amazing characteristics of devotion to Krishna, Shri Krishna Akarshini Chasa. Devotional service attracts Krishna. No, but Krishna is the all-attractive. Yes, Krishna is the all-attractive one, but devotion attracts even Krishna. And therefore Krishna can be conquered, but Krishna can be conquered by one who has love. Bilvamango Thakur went to Vrindavan and he conquered Krishna. Isn't it? He sang the very beautiful song, Raje Prasidam Navanita Chauram Gopan Gananam Chadukula Chauram Aneka Janmar Jitapapa Chauram Chauragraganyam Purusham Namami. Say, Krishna, you're a thief. You stole the butter, you stole the clothes of the gopis, you're stealing away all the sins of the conditioned souls who have performed activities for lifetimes, and ultimately you're stealing our minds, your hearts, you're a thief. And then Bilvamango Thakur said, but I'm running behind you, and I've caught you with the rope of my love, and now because you're a thief, I've imprisoned you within the cell of my heart. So yes, Krishna is carried, imprisoned within the heart of the devotee. Once there was a conference of sages. So who is the greatest? So someone said the sky is the greatest. Someone said no, the clouds are greater because they cover the sky. Someone said no, the wind is greater because it can move the clouds. Someone said no, the mountains are greater because they can stop the wind. Someone said no, the earth is greater because it holds up the mountain. Someone said no, it's God because God is holding up the earth. They said, you're right. And then God appeared and said, no, my devotee is holding me up. Sadhavo hridayam mayam sadhunam hridayam tvaham madanyate na jananti naham te bhyo managapi. Krishna says, the devotees are within my heart. I'm within their hearts. They don't know anything but me and I don't know anything but them. So the ultimate mission in life is to conquer the heart of God. The cowherd boys conquered Krishna because they beat him in a wrestling fight, and then Krishna had to carry them all the way home. Krishna's mother conquered him because she ran after him with a rope, and then she bound him to the wooden grinding mortar, conquered by love. Krishna was conquered by the milkmaids of Vrindavan because when he played his flute, they dropped everything and they came to meet him. And Krishna was conquered because he said, you made me contradict my words. I said, however people surrender to me, I will reward them accordingly. But the way you've surrendered to me, I don't have anything within my capacity with which to repay you. Napadayeham niravadya samyujam sasadu krityam vibudayushapiva. So Krishna said, what can I do? You have to be satisfied. I don't have anything else. So to conquer the heart of Krishna, how will we be able to conquer the heart of Krishna? That's where the Bhagavatam comes in. Because the Bhagavatam reveals to us at its very heart what the pastimes of love and the exchanges between Krishna and his devotees are. The Bhagavatam is sometimes compared to Krishna's body, isn't it? And every canto of the Bhagavatam is compared to a different part of Krishna's body. And sometimes they say the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam is Krishna's face. But one commentator, he says the 10th canto is Krishna's heart. And there are 5 chapters in the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, which are very, very special. The 21st chapter of the 10th canto is known as Venu Geet, the song of the flute. The 31st chapter of the 10th canto is known as Gopi Geet, the song of the gopis. The 35th chapter of the 10th canto is known as Yugala Geet, the pastimes of love between the divine couple and their song. The 39th chapter of the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, is known as Viraha Geet, because this is where Krishna is leaving Vrindavan and there is great separation. And the 47th chapter of the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, is known as Brahmara Geet, the song of the bee. And these 5 chapters, if the 10th canto is said to be the heart of Krishna, then this commentator says these 5 chapters are the 5 life heirs of Krishna. Because in these 5 chapters, one sees the intensity of love that goes on between Krishna and his most confidential devotees, whereby Krishna himself becomes conquered. And so, if you want to know how to conquer Krishna's heart, then you have to read Bhagavatam. Because in the Bhagavatam, you will get access to all the secrets of how the devotees completely disarm Krishna. So here, we are paying our respects to the Bhagavatam because the Bhagavatam is the very means of conquest. When we're trying to conquer the ignorance in the world, we need to bring the Bhagavatam in. When we're trying to conquer the mind and senses which are uncontrolled, the Bhagavatam is enlivening the mind and helping us to overcome those urges. When we're trying to conquer over our own pride and ego, the Bhagavatam helps us by showing us that actually there's a long way to go. And when we're trying to ultimately conquer Krishna's heart, then the Bhagavatam is the very means of conquest. Because the Bhagavatam is opening us up to the spiritual world, the place, Vrindavan, in which Krishna loves his devotees as much as they love him, in which Krishna needs his devotees as much as they need him. Vrindavan is the place where Krishna seeks his devotees as much as they seek him. And therefore we're introduced to the land of Vrindavan, where Krishna is not God. In Vrindavan, they don't love Krishna because he's God. They love God because he's Krishna. So yes, in this way, when we wake up in the morning every day, we should realize we're on a mission. You know the best alarm clock in the morning? Purpose. The best alarm clock in your life is purpose. And if you want a purpose, if you want a mission, if you want a conquest, then the Bhagavatam is telling us these are the things which when we wake up in the morning, we should realize this is my mission. This is the conquest I'm on. And in that conquest, keep the Bhagavatam very, very close, because all the secrets to being victorious are contained within this beautiful literature. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, there's few minutes to 1:30, and I heard 1:30 is the cutoff time. But if anyone has anything they would like to ask or share, then very happy. If you have
wonderful presentation. Maharaj has to go to San Diego and do the Sunday Peace lecture there, so we don't want to hold him too long. But he does have some books that he's written that we would like to promote before he leaves, in case anybody wants to take those. So, and he will give class here again Tuesday morning. So let's do that first, Maharaj. Please introduce your books.
Finish here.
Yeah, please introduce your books, and if anybody would like to.
Oh, I should introduce.
Yes, please yourself.
No, here for it.
Who better than you? Who better than you?
I'm a very small person. So these are two humble contributions. Srila Prabhupada's books are the law books for the next 10,000 years. And these humble books that we're writing are simply to introduce people and encourage people and assist people in reading Srila Prabhupada's books. So if you're interested, we have a small book on the Bhagavad Gita which breaks it down and hopefully makes it applicable and relevant and appropriate to your life. And then we also have another book which is just reflections on Srila Prabhupada's teachings, questions that people often ask about different aspects of navigating spirituality in the world, and some different articles and things like that. So yes, you're welcome if they will be of any help to you. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.